back, everybody, to Awaken the Best You with Misty Springer. Hi, Misty.
Hi, how are you, Anna?
I'm good. I'm Anna Levin. And today we are talking about finding happiness right now. Such a simple yet tricky thing to talk about, because happiness, I believe, is at the core of what us human beings are constantly seeking. And yet, when we resist certain life lessons or transition periods in our lives, it's a little bit harder, right, to feel happy.
hmm hmm
So that's what we're talking in a nutshell, what we're talking about today. So, yeah. So, you want to begin? Where do we begin with this finding happiness right now?
I think the place that often my clients come to me, the place that we often begin is why am I not happy? Why, I want to be, I feel stuck in this place of wanting to be happy, but not really knowing how to do that. And one of the places that I find a lot of my clients get stuck is in the waiting. Like, I need to, when I lose the weight, then I'll be happy. When my relationship with my husband gets better, then I'll start to love him and I'll feel happy. When I improve my relationship with my kids, and when I'm a better mother and more patient, then I'll be happy. When I actually start exercising and taking care of myself, then I'll be happy. And what we find is that we're left in the waiting, because we're constantly waiting for our happiness until we've reached a certain pinnacle, until we've reached a certain place. And it's false. It's a false truth. We're never going to be happy if we're continually waiting and looking for it outside of ourselves.
Yeah, it seems like we look into the future for us to be like, we don't believe, or there's a part of us that doesn't believe that we can be happy right here, right now. It doesn't mean that, of course, if in the future I go to Hawaii, I'm going to be happy because I love that place. But how do I find happiness right here, right now? Especially we're talking about while we are transitioning, while we are growing or looking at things that are a little bit more unpleasant to see. Is there a way to also be happy in those moments?
Exactly. Absolutely. That is where we become a powerful and intentional creator of our happiness versus just being a victim to circumstance. Because oftentimes what I find is the thing I love the most about looking in my own life, when I shift my perspective, when I start to, instead of waiting for my outside circumstances to make me happy, when I have my business looks like this, when my relationship looks like this, when my body looks like this, then I'll be happy. If I shift out of that into making the journey part of the happiness, that is when happiness is found. That is the process of becoming happy. I like to think about it. Oftentimes, the women I work with are very, myself included, very centered on our faith and centered on God. And oftentimes we're praying, please God, help me to develop patience, help me to be a more patient mother and to see my kids with love. And, God isn't going to come around with a little magic wand and say, bibbidi boppity boo, there you go. Now you're patient. Yeah. He's going to give us opportunities to practice becoming patient, because it's only in the practice that we become who we are meant to be. So when we're praying to become our best self, and we're praying to show up as who we want to be and happier in these situations, we're going to be given a lot of opportunities to practice becoming happier regardless of the circumstances or the situation. So it's about showing up differently in our relationship with our kids so that we feel happier in that relationship versus our kids changing and making us feel happy.
Yes, because we all heard, I mean, by now we all know, that those of us who have been working on ourselves for a long time, we know that we don't have control, or very, very little control, over any external, right, forces, but we have control over the way we react. So I think for me, for example, what has worked really well is understanding, why am I being unhappy? Why do I feel unhappy? And many times it's because I have like a certain rule, like you were saying, you know, when this happens, as opposed to, no, right here, right now, what are the things that I can be grateful for and just be happy about, that they're, even if it's a transition. And it has really eased a lot of the angst, you know, and that I felt in transitioning careers, for example, which was brutal for me. Brutal as far as like losing my identity and really understanding myself at a deeper level, which is what I was being asked by, you know, the divine to do. And yet having those stories, like we spoke in our last show about speaking our truth and not valuing my truth because, you know, I had a story of like, nobody wants to listen to what I have to say. I still battle with that, you know, not to the extent that I did before, but this is how embedded it is in us. So when we're speaking of happiness, that has helped me tremendously to understand, where am I coming from and what are the stories. And here's the truth, what are the stories I am willing to let go? Like, you know, because it's not like you are forced. Even if I am working with you, it's not like you're forcing me to do anything. Nobody can force you to do anything. But we
it reminds me of a story that one of my clients just recently told me. She said, you know, I've realized that I've been looking at this process of personal growth and stepping into my best self. I've seen it as something that needs to be hard and something that I really have to work at. And I can't be happy until I reach this definition or this vision of who I think I'm supposed to be. Well, in that process of becoming aware of that, that was something that she was able to let go. And the way that we worked with her on doing that is through recognizing that the stories, just giving gratitude for the story that's there, becoming aware of it. Like the story is, I'm not okay until I fix X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
You know, I'm not okay until I've lost 20 pounds. I'm not okay until my relationship is fixed. All those that we talked about. What she recognized was that, wow, what if I made this journey exciting instead of hard? But when she was able to look at each experience that came into her path with gratitude, like, oh, look at that. It's another opportunity to practice. Wow. In the practice, every time I practice, I'm becoming who I want to be. It's one of the things that comes to mind is this analogy of a conveyor belt. And my dear friend, Dr. Sean Horn, she spoke about this idea of the conveyor belt, and I love it because often we think of like, oh, I'm working on the resentment that I have towards my husband, and oh wow, look, I worked on that and I'm feeling so much better. I'm never going to feel that way again. I'm fixed. I'm done, you know? And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later or the next day or 5 minutes later, we feel that resentment. And we're like, wait a minute, I thought I had fixed that. I thought that was done. I thought I didn't have to deal with that anymore. And so what we think about, if you think about these things that we're willing to let go of, okay, so I'm willing to let go of this resentment, this idea that my husband has to make me happy. Okay, so I put that on the conveyor belt and I let it go. And I think, oh, hallelujah, it's gone.
I'm done.
I'm done. I'm fixed. You know, and then on this conveyor belt, you see it coming around the track and you see it coming right back towards you. And all of a sudden you're like in fear and judgment of yourself. Like, oh my gosh, why is this coming back? I thought I was done with this. I thought that I fixed this. Wow, there's something wrong. I must not be okay. I must not have fixed it because it's coming right back at me. And so I'm going to try to push it away. I'm going to try to resist it and say, don't come in, don't come in. I don't want you. And that comes, the resentment comes right back in and it sticks and it holds on and it feels like it's stuck inside of us. The only way for that resentment not to come back in and get stuck is we have to allow it to come through us, almost like we're a ghost. So it comes through, we say, oh, look, here's that resentment coming again. There it is. all right, I feel it. Yep, there's that resentment. And I'm going to put it right back on the conveyor belt and let it go.
Yeah.
And in that practice of seeing it, feeling it, and letting it go over and over and over again, that's when we start to become happier. We start to become the person who isn't resentful. It's only in that practice of the conveyor belt coming through over and over and over again that we actually become who we want to be.
Yeah.
And so we can see that coming with gratitude and say, oh, great, another opportunity to practice, instead of resentment, which was what, or fear, which keeps it stuck inside of us.
Yeah.
So,
and that's such a I mean, I love that. And even if somebody, for example, sometimes people are very angry. We're very angry at certain things that happen in our lives, and sometimes we don't have even the capacity to be grateful. So I would encourage people like to not feel discouraged, by that. Even if you do feel angry, just the mere acknowledging it and just, letting yourself be with it until it passes by, that alone is. And then with more practice, of course, we're all gonna get to a place where more whole and more, more in love with ourselves in a good way. And then we can, be even more grateful. It's like, okay, well, there's the anger again, and I know what it's doing, and I know what it's telling me.
Exactly.
And now we can actually, because it's all about, I feel like happiness has such a direct correlation with like inner peace. And what you're describing, this whole like letting things take their place and then letting them go, which in a way is also regaining a little bit of control, right? As opposed to like feeling out of control. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling this again. I shouldn't feel like that, because there's a lot of guilt for us women. And as opposed to like, okay, I am angry. Yes, I understand. Let's see. Where is it trying to tell me? And where is it coming from? Okay, so I'm gonna digest that anger and like let it go. And I
think that that's a great point, because that it is about looking at it with curiosity instead of judgment. The curiosity allows it to move through us. We don't have to be in a place where we're ready to give gratitude for it, but we can look with curiosity, because the only thing that keeps it stuck is the judgment. And so curiosity allows us to ask those questions like, oh, there it is again. Why is it here? What do I need to know? What do I need to understand about myself or the situation? Or maybe there isn't any question at all. Maybe it's just feeling it and letting it go. But wherever you're at, the what we resist persists. And so just allowing it to be there and not to make it mean something's wrong with you. Because it's there. It's just an opportunity to pay attention.
It feels like to me that this whole conversation, what is helping me understand is that by understanding our emotions a little bit better and developing a more intimate relationship with our feelings, then we can actually be happier, because everything is talking to us, everything. And our bodies in particular are a sensory machine, and this is how we actually interpret reality and right, and perspectives and the experiences that we have. So I think giving ourselves the grace to feel good enough to actually have whatever emotion we're having, I think that's the beginning of changing that momentum and finding the happiness right here, right now, which is what we're talking about today. But we're talking about that every day with ourselves, because since the moment we wake up, we're thinking, I am not very happy about like leaving my warm bed just to go make breakfast for the rest of the family, right? So it's an everyday practice, and it's like baby steps. And like you said, you always remind us in every one of your shows how important it is to become aware, because we can't change that which we don't see. Right? So just becoming aware, asking different questions, reaching out for people, for people like yourself that can help us actually mirror back what's going on in our, in between these two hemispheres. And what am I telling myself? What are the things that I cannot see? That's the beauty of us human beings. When we come together, we can create miracles, because a shift in perspective, right, is a miracle.
Absolutely.
So those are the beautiful moments that happen when we work together. Anything else you want to add as far as like finding happiness right now that we
No, just the I love the what you said about awareness, and I would just add to that that insight is really about seeing ourselves with new eyes. When we gain an insight, it's we're looking inside ourselves with new eyes. And that really is the process that we are all going through, is it's allowing ourselves the space and the time and the self-care to look inside ourselves with new eyes, with a new insight. So just would invite people to be able to allow themselves to have that. It's a beautiful thing.
Yes, yes. Regain your inner authority, everybody. Which is hard to do sometimes because we feel like, we still have like our parents' voices and all the stories that we have created. But guess what? We're all adults, so we can give ourselves the permission to do so. So I'm so excited. So lots to, the word is masticate like cows.
Digest.
Yes, digest.
Chew on.
a lot to chew on today. Beautiful, beautiful insights. I hope people actually took notes and started their own practices. And if they feel called to, go a little bit deeper, you guys can reach out to Misty, because she offers free introductory sessions. They're 45 minutes long. There's no strings attached. She is a gem, and I know by my personal experience that it takes a lot of courage to go to a vulnerable place where we actually look at ourselves in the mirror with all of our stories, all of our, I'm saying I want happiness, but I'm not willing to do this, that space. And so to have somebody like you, Misty, that you can hold a loving space and guide us, it's just priceless. It really is priceless. So please reach out to her. Remind us how to reach out to you, please.
So the best way to find me is either through my website. At the very bottom, there's you can click on a calendar link. It'll take you to my discovery session calendar. Make an appointment that fits for your schedule and mine. Or you can find me on Misty Springer Wellness, Facebook, Instagram, instant message me. I'm really, it's one of my favorite things to do, is to connect with women and just to hear their stories and to help them create a safe space for them to start gaining that insight within themselves and to see themselves with new eyes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for a lovely conversation again. And until then, everybody, find your happiness right now. You won't regret it.
Thanks, Anna.
Thanks.